Welcome in. I'm whispering. Can you believe the Jays game went 18 innings last night? Went to like past 3 in the morning. By the way, they lost. Oh my God. Oh my God, that was heartbreaking. But I've got a high risk tolerance in that sense. I've grown over the past year, so I'm not overly disappointed because there's lots of baseball to be played yet. Effing Otani. that Shohei Otani is pretty good. Wish they walked him in the bottom of the 7th though. We were up in that game. What? I'm glad it was against such a fantastic opponent. Hey, what's going on, Mr. Hemi? What's going on? All kinds of people leaving comments. I do appreciate them. I love everybody in that sense. I think people, because they leave such short comments in that sense, I figure that they're just picking up what I'm putting down. Sometimes it gets lost in translation, but whatever. So I thought I'd go live. Sky Maiden, what's going on? Good to see you, Wolfie. Pam, hello. So I can't figure out yet how to change the names in my live chat back to your name as opposed to the @ symbol. I was on another stream yesterday who just had a normal name up there. So I've got to figure out how the hell I do that. Where the hell I go for that. Maybe it's in YouTube Studio under settings. Maybe I should ask Grok. Maybe I should. It was a crazy game, Wolfie. Oh man, I went to bed. I woke up twice. Kept checking. I'll be doing the same tonight and tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. You notice that the names change off and on, Sky Maiden? There are some interesting things to talk about when it comes to the Jack and Lily case. As you guys see on Justin's, there's a picture going around of Daniel's or Janie's smashed up vehicle, smashed up in the hind quarters, the rear end. Oh my God. Apparently, he's been in several car accidents in the past few months. That's bizarre. It's almost hard. Oh, you thought Derpwood was driving? Shelley Fraser said. Maybe you guys probably know a lot more than I do about it. I was just saw it in passing. I didn't really get to know all the ins and outs about it. I didn't care that much. I was busy doing some other things, but watching and listening in. So maybe Derpwood was driving. Yeah, Sky made no. That's not. Doesn't look like a rolled vehicle. It looks like it got smashed in the asshole. Smashed in the back rear quarter. We could only be so lucky. Why don't you drive it off a cliff there, Daniel? Get Derpwood to take you down to the ocean. Is that what it is, Teresa? 3 and 6 months? That's enough. Now, is it all him? Or is he just in the vehicle, I wonder? Hopefully it's not all in your vehicle. That's hard on insurance. Not that he ever buys any. Maybe he didn't buy any. Maybe he didn't have any. There's a reason for that. What? No. You're way off. It didn't roll end over end, Sky Maiden. What the fuck do you think this is? A crash up derby? Crisscross crash? Oh, I looked at the picture. It doesn't look... It's only some rear end damage. Exactly. Now you're on the first steps to the basic. That's what cops do when they first get on the force. Traffic in boring crash details, and you got to go through this crap. Yeah, but it trains your mind in the processes of trying to figure certain things out. You know that, Sky Maiden. They're all going to see Meadow, were they, Shelley Fraser? Well, I'll just bet they were. Oh, Derpwood said it rolled, allegedly. Well, there you go. Ironclad. Oh, yeah. That fucking guy. That is really funny how he got called out in the CBC. Combative. Derpwood was combative and was probing the officers for information. Well, that's not suspicious, is it? So it was confirmed that it was Daniel, because a lot of people are saying it wasn't. I'll take your word for it. I don't care. Little spoiler alert. A little bit of a distraction. Oh, yeah, I'm just fine. I'm just fine, everybody. Trying to garner a little bit of your sympathy, yeah. Had to go for a CAT scan. He went to get an opportunity to get some radioisotopes blasted off his brain. Perfect. Sarcastic today. He was texting the moron Dorkwood is an a-hole Silver. Who are you talking about? He was texting. Oh, well, he was driving, you mean? That's more like it. Distracted driving. Whoop, watch that turn there. You need somebody alongside you just to monitor what's going on. Hey, would you pay attention to the road, please? That's more like it. I'm thinking, if they were a little bit more organized, this would be one hell of a payday for these guys. Somehow I don't think it was intentional that, I was thinking about it when I first saw it. I'm like, oh, these guys are fucking scamming their insurance. Probably drove in front of somebody and slammed on the brakes and got them to run right into the back of them. Like a truck or something. Like a commercial truck. Well, they might not have the balls to do that in front of a transport, but might be a mistake. Oh, fuck. I think it certainly wasn't a tractor trailer. I got a photo in the back of it. Rolling end over end. Yeah. Really garnering some sympathy. Flying around like the Dukes of Hazzard. I'm glad everybody's okay. Nobody was hurt. I hope he had zero insurance. Robin? Come on now. You guys are way too hard on Daniel, guys. There's a 0.00001% chance of him being innocent in all of this. And here you are just jumping to conclusions. Oh, shit. Does that sound biased? Yeah, Janie's car went ass over tea kettle. No, it didn't. Drippy. Fucking guys. It's like playing telephone. You know what I mean? The red telephone rang. Pass it on. Fuck, you get it. Anyway, some people are more concise and descriptive than others, but whatever. That car didn't look like it would be at fault. It looked like it was rear-ended. Absolutely, Mr. Hemi. You've got a great memory, as opposed to going end over end. I'm just kidding you, Drippy. Maybe you're being sarcastic. Janie, sure, she doesn't let she doesn't let Daniel drive her four-wheeler, but here she is smashing the shit out of the car. Okay, I hope she's got insurance. You would think that she would have insurance. Absolutely, she would. You would. She has insurance. You'd think she has insurance. I bet he's uninsurable, Mr. Hemi's saying. That's why Mom was so adamant that he doesn't touch her four-wheeler. Well, it's kind of hard to hide all of that now. Well, I don't let that son of a bitch drive my four-wheeler. He can't get ADHD in that sense. He can't stay off that phone. He's constantly monitoring Malaya through, track my phone on Google. Oh, Daniel says that him and Malaya used to do that just to keep tabs on one another. It was a trust thing. Here, is that what it is? Let me monitor your every steps and every moment. Oh, yeah, yes. Oh, what? Just the man I always wanted. Talk about putting a positive spin on it. Daniel's telling the cops that, yeah, they track one another, their every movements, right? What? You're tracking my every movements? That's something like a jealous husband does to his wife. You throw the magnet tracker on her vehicle. Apple, what is it, an AirPod for Apple? I track you with my AirPod just to keep an eye on you. I don't trust you. That's why you're watching him. Not because you do it out of the loving part of your humanity. You don't do it because you love the person. Oh, I love you. That's why I'm tracking you. Tracking you because I'm obsessed. I'm a control freak, and I need to know where you are at all times. How do I know that you're not off talking to some other man with... Kelly's talking about its coercive control. Oh, I'll say allegedly. It's just something fun to really sink your teeth into because there's something wrong with the statement. Oh yeah, nothing to see here. That we just do that. That's normal. That's normal. It's like being into rough sex or something. Oh, by the way, he is. I hear. Not that I'm interested. I think we all had to hear that. Poor Daniel. You guys are so difficult, so tough. It's a tough crowd. Nothing like telling the cops you're a jealous control freak. Well, don't you understand? Didn't he just explain it to you? That they do it because they love each other. They both do it to each, one another. It's what we do. It's agreed upon. It's like a prenuptial. It's an agreement between two people to track one another. They had trust issues, obviously. One way or the other. You can tell through that they have trust issues. And they just lie to themselves. Yeah, that's probably pretty common with individuals in relationships who are trying to work on things, make them a little bit better. At some point, you've got to kind of lie to yourself and just put your trust in that other person, whether they deserve it or not, in order to move past certain things. And there's probably a lot of that going on in this scenario leading up to the kids going missing. That's not a red flag. That's a red curtain. You know it, Norbeaster. That's pretty good. Well, Teresa, you might think it's TMI, but Daniel felt it was important that information get out. Just in case. He's trying to filter out all of the ladies that come in his way in the future. That's why you've got to mention things like that. It's like dropping hints. You wonder if he will pull Chandler Halderson and claim an injury. Oh, I don't know. That was funny last. Yeah, actually, it came up in Justin's. I remember, like he might later on, while under cross-examination, claim that this particular accident has caused him some sort of disruption in his temporal lobes, which are in front of the place where he keeps all of his memories in his brain. He rattled his cage and he can't remember anything. He doesn't even remember what his middle name is. Doesn't remember certain periods in time, and they're going to bring in like Dr. Nick Riviera from The Simpsons to be their special, their special witness. $30,000 an hour witness. Professional, expert. Hi, Dr. Nick.
Hi, everybody.
And yet people will say that they were great parents. Oh, of course, there's always there's always people that want a little bit of the attention that's going around. They want to be known to be, it's just so pretentious and disgusting. I hate people like that. But alas, you have to put up with it, Mr. Hemme. Yeah, Norbeaster, his proclivities aside from what we know about him paints a brighter red flag. Yeah, if you're looking for them. Hey, freaks. How do you know that, Wolfie? How do you know about him having to go and take a test before he sees her and all of that? Are these things that you know for a fact? I'm just asking because I don't know. It was mentioned before by him. Drippy, you're saying all three of them, Janie, Daniel, and Derpwood. It's hard to believe that this relationship between Janie and Derpwood. Do you think Derpwood's living in that RV right now? Finally, she can rent it out, just like she's planned. Her hillbilly Airbnb. On a budget. You should make a video of that. It'd probably go viral. You should make a little video, Janie. You guys should have your own channels right now. You could be making money. Going viral. Hashtag van life. Well, Broken Goth Doll, who sent the text that's on the screen and to whom? Well, you know all about this text. It's been discussed. I did a video about it yesterday. This is allegedly between Please Bring Them Home. You can tell that's a Canadian company because the first word is please. What? Yeah, it's true. You can tell it's Canadian, and it is. It's from Ontario, of all things. Some people are saying Guelph. I was doing a little looking at it earlier when it came on today, but there's a Chris, what's her name? Chrissy Tavern. I got that name from Mike DeMann watching his video on it yesterday. And this Broken Goth Doll is from a text conversation, apparently, between Malaya and this Chrissy Tavern. Now, I got thinking about it afterwards, and I'm like, whoa. Didn't Malaya kind of... I should halt because we're doing some interpreting, of course. We just have the text message. But the fact that we're even looking at this message, wouldn't that tell you from, let's say, the perspective of Daniel or Malaya in this circumstance that these people can't be trusted? Do you know what I mean? It's not like I'm poo-pooey about the information. We don't digest it. The sources enough, and I'm like, well, why is anybody seeing this message to begin with? If their intentions are what they, make them out to be. And a lot of people are in my chat saying that they take this opportunity really to steal the spotlight and really advertise their own pretend business in that sense. And let me tell you, unless this guy's fabulously wealthy and independently wealthy, like what is it? Who is he? Why is he? People are bringing up that he's just craving media attention in that sense. And that's got to be likely normal in this circumstance. But I went and I searched a little deeper and I looked into it. And I don't know. I still am no farther ahead. I don't know. I've never heard of the organization. But the fact that one of one of the people that are working with you are turning around and sending out copies of their private messages with conversations would tell me, regardless of what's in the message, that the person can't be trusted to begin with. Now, that's whether I'm a suspect or not a suspect. Not just because she's incredibly guilty. I'm glad she shared it in this circumstance. But if I have a business and my policy is respects, like it or not, respects the family's privacy, the last thing that I'm going to do is share a bunch of my own private conversations with this individual. But there's an argument that you could make that she really wasn't involved to begin with. She's involved with Belinda, and she is understanding it, and her public sentiment is different from what she does feel in behind the scenes. And there's a reason for everything from her perspective. I'm not dismissing that. I can see both points in this, so I'm like, oh, I'll just watch. Yeah, well, I don't care whether you believe it is or not, Wolfie. It's more of a generalized statement. When you think about these organizations, you think about places like Texas EquiSearch and Midwest EquiSearch. They're always usually have spokesmen, or there's somebody out that is engaged in the community. I just don't know a lot about this individual. Hopefully they're legit. I hope they're a little bit more legit than what's being made out. For Belinda's sake, because they're involved with Belinda. They've been involved early on based upon where we were way back then. I'm all for them coming out and searching in that sense. But I'm like, I don't even want to scrutinize them in that sense. I don't know what their plans are. It just seems that I just hope that they have enough finances and their finances in order and not put it back onto all of the thirsty people out there. And it turns into be just another grift. And they're putting themselves in really prime position to benefit. Not that it's a competition and I'm in competition with them in that sense. It's just there's a big bug in here and I'm going to fucking grab it right out of midair. It was coming right at my head too. I almost had it. Excuse me. Distracted. I'm not that distracted. I've been trying to get that SOB for the last day. Flying around in my studio, bro. Too much is being kept secret, Mr. Hemi? By whom do you think? Well, what? First of all, why would you need to be so secretive in this circumstance? Do you think now? That's just a question I'll put out to the ether. Hello, Retro AI. Here you go, dear. Do you want this? We were up so late last night. I forgot to put this sound on my phone. We woke up too late to even go to school. We slept in because of the Jays last night. Damn it. It's okay. So my daughter's home with me today. We're enjoying the day off. Secretive peeps are either embarrassed or hiding something, the Norbeaster. Secretive people are either embarrassed or hiding something. Now, who do you figure those people are? I think we know all the players. There could be other ones, of course. But I don't think it's much of a mystery. Drippy, you're saying I originally thought it was because M was cooperating with the Popo and she was a victim of Daniel, but now I have a lot of doubts there. Oh, I don't think she's being cooperative at all. Not that I'm just being a contrarian to you. You know, I hope that she would, but something tells me in the circumstance she's going to have to be motivated in a different way. It's not a surprise. The cops don't have a smoking gun sitting there in front of their face. Otherwise, people will be locked up already. That doesn't mean that Daniel didn't do anything. And it doesn't mean that he absolutely did anything. We're caught in this limbo. People constantly want to analyze and sometimes misinterpret because things change over time in their minds. They're a master of saying nothing in their language. Oh, absolutely. Listen, you can all see the problems with the storyline and the timeline. And the, what would you say, the absolute refusal to acknowledge the importance of the circumstances leading up to the kid's disappearance by especially Daniel in front of the camera. They've got all kinds of inconsistencies and reasons. It's just that they have to build the case in a different way. Eliminating leads, it's just a lot slower. Ideally, you'd like Daniel just to go down to the RCMP and admit everything and we can get this whole shit show over with. Tell us where the kids are. But that's not going to happen. But just because there's not a smoking gun sitting there in front of you on your desk saying, add me to evidence and this solves the case and here's the reason for it, doesn't mean that it's not going to get solved. That takes these detectives some time. And it just has everything to do with accumulating evidence. Like they said, eliminating leads. But it's not like people are jumping to the conclusion, sometimes in the comments section, thinking that it means that, that means that they're absolutely innocent. It doesn't mean that at all either. We all have recognized the problem at hand here. Drippy, you don't know if any of them did anything? It is their behavior we have seen so many times before in true crime cases that causes us to be suspicious. Not really, Drippy. It's in their language, okay? The language that Daniel, Malaya, Janie have used is why we're so suspicious of them in this circumstance. The language, their language. You know this. Who are you talking about, Slim? Lowercase Belinda, who's that? Broken goth doll, you're waiting for the boom moment. I'm not sure you'll know until after it all happens. Like, usually it's not a big surprise that they're suspects in all of this. They'll change it to a criminal investigation about 10 hours before they announce arrests type of thing. listen, let me, I was reading something a little earlier. So there's some shifts when, in investigations like this, when parents appear deceptive. If parents exhibit signs of deception, such as inconsistent statements, evasive responses during interviews, or behavioral cues flagged in the initial 911 call, like lack of urgency or vague timelines or scripted narrative, check. The RCMP escalate the case from a routine missing persons inquiry to a potential criminal investigation. This is why it keeps being brought up. This is common in parental abduction scenarios, however, which account for about 122 of Canada's annual missing child reports. Deception raises suspicions of foul play, custody disputes, or hidden involvement, prompting a victim-centered but suspicion-aware pivot. The investigation becomes more adversarial towards the parents, treating them as potential suspects rather than solely as allies. Major crime or major case management (MCM) protocols are activated, involving specialized teams like major crime units for oversight, resource allocation, and multi-agency coordination. So the key changes include reclassification and escalation. The case shifts to high risk or suspicious disappearance, potentially triggering forensic involvement early for 2 children. This amplifies urgency as it suggests coordinated deception or a single event like a staged escape. In 2025 Nova Scotia case involving 2 missing siblings, RCMP invoked MCM within 24 hours after parental inconsistencies, deploying major crimes investigators and intrusive cell phone alerts across counties. So it's acknowledging that they did do that in that case a little bit. We're on, the beginning of the escalation. There's advanced interrogation and deception detection. Multiple structured interviews with the parents using non-leading questions to probe inconsistencies. Behavioral analysis draws from 911 call research, where deceptive reporters often minimize details or avoid emotional language. Polygraph tests, administered voluntarily but increasingly standard in suspicious cases. In 2025 Nova Scotia investigation, parents underwent polygraphs on day 5 alongside witnesses to verify timelines. Forensic interviews if other children or relatives are involved, avoiding suggestive techniques per RCMP child victim protocols. Forensic and scene processing. The home and surrounding areas become a crime scene. Full searches for blood, fibers, digital footprints, like deleted texts, GPS data, or signs of staging, like unlocked doors or footprints. In deceptive parent cases, investigators re-examine the site for evidence of concealment, like buried items or vehicle tracks. Evident in the Nova Scotia case where boot prints and a blanket were analyzed. Digital forensics intensify warrants for parents' phones, emails, social media, and financial records to trace movements or communications indicating flight plans. Judicial authorizations allow ISP data pulls if abduction is suspected. Easy for me to say. I like this one. The surveillance and background checks. Covert monitoring of parents, like vehicle tracking, financial surveillance to detect flight risks or asset hiding. Backgrounds, probably not very busy though. Backgrounds are deeply vetted for custody disputes, prior violence, or mental health issues. Collaboration with child welfare agencies like Provincial Family Services to assess home environment and interview non-parental relatives separately. It goes on to talk about parental abduction. So, public and media strategy adjustments. Now, this is more important. I like this term. Controlled releases. which is what we experience when we get updates in the Jack and Lily Sullivan case in that sense, is a controlled release to avoid tipping off deceptive parents. So their priority right now in that sense, you would have to think, is maintaining status quo and pandering to and doing what they've done. They've seen a little bit wishy-washy, and they've come up and had to, the RCMP, I mean, they've had to come out with small corrections for the media, because the way the media covered it, the result of that, they can measure after, right? So it's like, oh, well, we see how this is taking traction, and they can, release, give them an update saying that, no, for example, we have nothing to substantiate the neighbor's claims. There's no video, there's nothing, just the report. So it's really his word against Daniel's that night, i.e. something that you would probably bring up in a courtroom in that sense afterwards. Like, obviously, Daniel's not going to go back and go back on his claim of not being asleep from May 1st into the 2nd. I don't see that being don't see that happening. He's been so adamant about being home all night and in bed, which is inconsistent with the other statements that we've got, by the way. We know that, but that's just the beginning of it. Yeah, high five, Chip. I believe the RCMP know who, what, and why, but need the where. Definitely, that's always going to be priority in this as the investigation moves forward, is the location of the kids. That's the whole premise to this investigation, right? LD, remember the May 7th presser? Kurt McKinnon, talking about switching gears in the search for the... Oh, yes, I do, actually. Yeah, thank you very much for bringing that up. Yeah, I do. Yeah, even when they have little drops like that, and great observation, it's not like they're going to turn around and let you into all of the juicy details about Sweet Dick All. Like, it's an update. Here's what we're looking at. Here's what you can know. Everything else, like from Daniel, is just icing on the cake. And it's going to be very difficult for any parent to look at this situation, especially, not just parents, but a lot more, and recognize that there's a greater issue here. Even though that you recognize the greater issue, you still have to make it make sense in court. And that takes time, of course. How is it they can't be responsible? How is it they're not responsible in that sense? Who believes that these kids just voluntarily walked out that sliding door and disappeared, never to be seen from again? And they were only heard a little bit. You couldn't even get what time that was exactly out of them. And it's just really till recent that it's just blown out of the water with the discussion about the initial report being the kids missing at 8 o'clock to dispatch. And the phone call, the unredacted phone call to Cindy at 8:28. 20 minutes away from Janie's phone call to her brother. Janie didn't have that down in her initial timeline, and she later had to update the police report to being before or after that she heard the kids in that sense. They do an awful lot of work. So you went through all of these hours without actually visibly seeing and interacting with these kids. All of them, any of them. That particular morning. Yet she called the kids in at 6:15, sick for the day again, for the second day in a row. It's hard at this point to not set that little story aside and really wonder about the potential of the kids not making it home at all. We've got no real verification between this phone call from Cindy and Malaya at 3:37 on the Thursday. That pretty comfortable to say that occurred. Malaya mentioned early on that Cindy would have seen the kids in that phone call, but nothing ever verified by Cindy. She said that nothing that she remembers, nothing eventful happened in that conversation. And the police were interested in that particular conversation for the exact same reason I think that we all are, and that I just brought up. We don't know what conclusion they've come to with that, and they would have had to have come to a conclusion by now. We're just not privy to that kind of information. So, we take that into consideration along the way. What is it you believe? Do you think the kids actually made it home? Or do you not? See, it took me a lot longer to really start focusing on that. For me in my mind to get to that point. It took me a while. Not that I was dismissing it. It's just like, wow, the more that I learned, the more that I come back to that. Did the kids ever make it home at all? Because of the amount of deception involved in these, what we would be otherwise suspicious of a scripted story, I guess would be the right way to term it. Ileana, Darlene, in other words, I don't believe the children were in bed Thursday night at all, in my opinion. Nobody's mad at you. Nobody's mad at you at all. I've got a hard time. That's where we're going with this. We're not trying to argue the point, but there's something so wrong with their story that you can't accept it. Right when they never ever, meaning Malaya or Daniel, wanted to really nail down an easy timeline, a sheer, not even 12 hours or 10 hours previous to that, the night before they went to bed. They don't want to talk about what time. They don't have an aligned story in that sense. Oh yeah, I flipped the light on at midnight, Daniel says, to check on the kids after it was asked of him by a bunch of strangers out here. It's not like it's factual information. Yeah, Broken Goth Doll, I remember it really came out in court about that occurrence. It was never talked about up to that point, or really even, maybe it was conversed about Harmony being harmed in the car in that sense. Listening to that story was so difficult. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. That's how fast it can happen, right? With an individual who can't control their anger under stress like that. Think about everything that Adam put himself through, towing that body around for such a long time, trying to evade the inevitable. That situation reminds me of what Daniel is in for in that sense. Like at some point, somebody's going to have to be accountable for what happened in the circumstances leading up to the kids going missing, because they're your responsibility. You have a drink of water right now, please. Cool J, something changed when Malaya had panic attacks in the back of an ambulance. Well, that's what they're calling it. Well, I wonder what really happened. I wonder what really was going on that day. I don't want to hear the Daniel version. I want to know the Malaya version. I want to know the what she came to the hospital about, how she was presenting. I wonder. But you could really much chalk it up to, panic attack is something that you use to dismiss something away. Oh, don't worry, it was just a panic attack. But, she was having an emotional a breakdown. She had to get the hell out of there for whatever reason. So what brought her to the point of breaking and really calling 911 in order to get the hell up on out of there? Because in order to take off with an ambulance, she called 911. So you have to request either, they usually send sometime, depending on where you live, it could be the fire, ambulance, and police. Depends who gets there first. But she left in a ambulance. I wonder what happened. It takes, but she left. I wonder how long she was gone for. Yeah, Drippy. Yeah, listen, Drippy Thoughtsicles, you're not wrong in your statements. I'm just very careful because you start to adapt to the information that was given to you by Daniel, who's a suspect in all of this, and you're accepting of his answers to something into your thought process, thereby tainting it. I'm not calling you tainted at all. He said, given the school called CPS on them, and according to D, Lily had a black eye, I think that is a pretty good motive to keep them home on Friday. Potentially. But my trust factor when it comes to Daniel and the things that he says at any point in time are at an all-time low. That's all. Yeah, Slim Pickens, you think the midnight shenanigans are a red herring? Well, listen, I don't necessarily think that it's a red herring because the days leading up to the hours, I should say, the hours leading up to the 911 call were probably a lot more strategic from their perspective than we'd like to think, right? Oh, where did I put that comment? I mean, it's really odd Daniel couldn't remember what he did the night before. Yeah. They say they don't do much, but got to go out in 2 days in a row. They drag the kids around all day for whatever reason. There's certainly some interesting inconsistencies and some conflicts within their timeline that haven't been rectified. That's not going to be just passed over by the RCMP. That's my biggest indicator that they're accumulating evidence to build against those responsible. What else do you think they're doing? You think that the RCMP are walking out there completely clueless? I doubt it. They don't have to update anybody. They especially when the suspects are still out there. They can maintain the status quo for as long as possible for whatever reason. So sometimes I think, things get put out there for a bit of a distraction to keep us talking about it. Oh, it's so important what this is called right now. So somebody at home can rest a little bit easier and satisfy their curiosity. No, it's really not how it works. But people who are engaged in that group think it works on, which we're all susceptible to sometimes. Like there's nothing in this circumstance that would suggest that Daniel or Malaya are innocent of anything. Of course, that's not how we prosecute, but listen, when you're an investigator investigating this, you're certainly looking at it. There's nothing out there that they've presented that would say, oh, yeah, this is definitely conflicts. They weren't even home. There's this factor, that factor. You can't rule the parents out. In fact, they're number one suspects because of circumstantial evidence from that sense. Right now, to us, from an outsider's perspective, from an insider's perspective, there's going to be more concise details that they have, rolling around in their minds. Where are you moving to there, Norbeaster? You think the panic attack was her family confronting her about the lies before she left? S. Lee 08. You mean accumulated stress from that situation? Yeah, it's probably a combination of a lot of things in that sense. Like they put themselves in a bit of a situation. Do you think Malaya's going to speak up, Cool J? think that would be wishful thinking. Not taking away anything, Cool J, because I kind of agree with you, but I think that they've demonstrated to the world simply by getting in front of a camera and putting forth a rehearsed story when it comes to her own children would indicate that she's prioritized her own self, and she's not going to be all that forthcoming without a little bit of the right pressure, right motivations, like as if there's a reason to. Cool J, well, that depends what the scope of the particular case looks like. And we kind of know, we kind of assume we know, but we don't really know. I think that would have to be where the location of Jack and Lily are in that sense. And you don't think that she knows where the children are? I think that there's a strong possibility she doesn't. There's a possibility she doesn't. We don't have enough information. You think that this was done to her in that sense, like something happened because the children are an extension of her in that moment, because of maybe she was fighting back from the controlling nature. Maybe their disagreements escalated to that point and somebody ended up losing their temper. Cool J, I think Malaya's mom told her to come home or she would tell the RCMP what she and Wade knew. Joyous, good to see you. You don't think Wade and Cindy told the RCMP what they were so open about, or what Wade was so open about, and their suspicions? Man, those are some interviews that I'd like to hear. I'm interested to know. I'm just scared to jump to that conclusion. They're definitely questioned. You would think that they were questioned separately in that sense. Well, point taken. You think Malaya's mom told her to come home, or she would tell the RCMP what she and Wade knew? I don't know. I believe earlier on they had to make a decision, and if you're going to make the decision early on, you've got to stick to your guns until it's seen through, no matter if it takes 8 months, 14 months, 24 months, 36 months, 5 years. You know what I mean? You have to stick to it, accumulate all of that evidence, and let it take you to where that you can no longer have any other choice, direction to go than where you are at that point in time. I think that they're slowly getting there. Cool J says, hell no, she doesn't know where they are. She wasn't out there in the woods digging effing holes and walking through waist-deep water. Okay. So are you thinking, Cool J, that this whole... So are you thinking the whole scenario where Daniel and everybody was off without their cell phones as a probable moment in time where they were actively hiding evidence and the children at the same time? Do you know what I mean? Or do you think that this was all said and done before they even, the end of Thursday? Like, the kids didn't make it home in that sense. They're just sitting in the back of the car or in a container or something, or off to the side. So there's all kinds of things that need to be figured out in that sense. It's like a 3-part process. Like, the circumstances leading up to the disappearance is one part. What actually happened to 2, not 1, but 2 children. And then the disposing, the desecration of a corpse, and the cover-up. The conspiracy. There's so much to this, isn't there? That's cool. I like your answer. No matter what you think in that circumstance, I enjoy an answer to that, to see where your minds are. I think we can all trust that we should be open-minded. We should be open-minded to the degree where we're not too set on any one thing that resulted in the deaths of these children at this point in time. We knew something. We know and can tell or suspect that something bad happened. And yeah, Daniel's a fucking huge douche in that sense. But there'll be plenty of time for blame. Yeah, well, that's sadly something else to blame on the parents in that sense, Mr. Hemme. You're talking about people, nobody showing up for the kids, as though you're putting it on everybody else as opposed to the parents who were isolating the children away from the rest of the world in that circumstance. So Cool J, the final resting spot of the kids was done Friday while the search was starting. Fuck, that's ballsy. Holy shit. That's ballsy, isn't it? That fucking guy, that tweak. You know, it makes sense. I mean, I'm not sold on it, but I'm not sold on anything. I mean, it fits, doesn't it? I can see where you feel that way. I mean, what else would they be out there doing? With no communication device. With no way to monitor or track in that moment. Listen, if you're out in an emergency situation and you're going away from your home, the first thing that you're going to remember to bring is your phone and your way of communicating. Don't feed us any other line of shit in that sense. You don't even have to ask. You just write it down. Oh, you didn't. Oh, I'll just mark that down then. Did not bring mobile device. In 2025, that's suspicious. Very much. Yeah. No, it seems ballsy. I get what you're saying. It was all of this is out of desperation. It just seems ballsy, right? When you're trying to figure it out. I should underline that, no doubt. It wasn't necessarily ballsy. Might have been the only option he had because Malaya called 911 earlier than she was supposed to. Yeah, like he was forced to do something at that point in time because of the ongoing conflict between the two. Like this is something that escalated. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, dude. I get where you're coming from. Quite possibly, you know. I mean, there's a strong possibility that's true. Because what else are you going to account for the fact that he was just otherwise, from what we can tell, avoiding? We weren't there to watch it, but other people knew it was suspicious right away. We should put our trust in that for a little bit. Especially Haley. You know, she recognized it. I don't think it's that easy, runs with scissors. And it's not necessary. Why start them through the process and on such a minimal scenario and risk them getting off? When you have to do it in context of the situation that's going on. You could add that to the list of the plethora of charges that they're going to be on the hook for. And they will be, but it might not be important. Shelley, you're not thinking the kids made it home? Well, there's probably a better way to say that. Like when we say the kids didn't make it home, that something occurred before around the time that they arrived home, and they didn't make it till bedtime in that sense. Because there seems to be a real problem with nailing down a time frame, even still to this day, about what happened in the hours leading up to what they would, in the end, like us to believe them going to bed like every other day and then sleeping through the night and waking up like you do normally or should do normally. That's not normal, by the way, when you're on these substances like the mathematics. You know, sleeping would be abnormal. Linda Saunders, I appreciate that. Welcome. Janie goes and puts her arms around Malaya first time ever and said, "Don't tell me they've found the kids dead." After, 2 hours of ignoring MBM's call? Yeah, we'll come across a little bit scripted, Anita. But this is what we've become so good at pointing out, really, in a nutshell. That's the forest. So if we've been all focused on really the bullshit and the dissection of the bullshit story all of this time, it's taken away from the reality of the situation that had really occurred. Yeah, LD. You talking about Janie freaking out when they showed her places they searched? Who was freaked out? Norbeaster, I'd be losing my mind with joy over more people helping. The folks seems like they're telling everyone to F off and leave them alone. Sorry, we want to find your children more than you, Junkyard Janie. Yeah, she's been telling people to get the hell away from there for a long time. But it's all... None of it really makes a lot of sense when you sit back and look. Nobody's acting right. Why is Janie so upset about everything? Nobody was insinuating that searching meant like 2 feet out your door. Maybe they did, but there's so many different places that you could search and be a hand in all of this. They're really hesitant in all of that. It kind of makes me feel like, unfortunately, the site that we're suspicious of is close by, closer than close by to the place, but not within, maybe 4 kilometers, 3 kilometers. It's further on out. Have to get in all the profilers to figure out exactly the possibilities. Oh yeah, nihilism. Kind of like the family of Gus in Australia. The family doesn't want help looking. That's always suspect. Well, then why'd you call 911? Why'd you call in emergency services? You guys don't want any help? Okay. Malaya just had the instinct that she needed to call LE. Yeah, that was one of the... That's avoidance right there, isn't it? That's another one of the early ones that had me hooked. Guys are obviously fucking lying. If it's obvious to all of us, it would have had to have been a little bit more obvious to the cops, I would imagine, because they would get upset for the same reasons. There's not enough context. Well, but listen, it was a day just like any other day. Nothing life-changing happened. Therefore, there was nothing worth remembering. Huh. Man. Justin on Clutch is pointing out Justin Smith's account middle of the night, same as Daniel's later that morning. Yeah, I see where you're going with that, Drippy. That's interesting. Does it? Is that what you guys were talking about? Justin's account rhymes with what Justin's observations would have been or tried to, but a little bit like I see what you're saying, because they would have overlapped potentially in their stories, because we're talking about from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m., 3 hours away from the 8 a.m. timeline they gave police. Listen, their timeline's important whether it's true or not, because it's what's going to be the determining factor in a court of law. They're going to have to pick apart that story as the investigators, but it's going to be all based around the police reports. The police reports are the fabricated story from Daniel, Malaya, and Janie. Janie should have just shut the hell up. Janie should have just shut the hell up about everything and did a Malaya. But she was so important. They were so desperate to get some of this information out here. She just couldn't help herself, I think. Is there more to the story? Probably. She has a need to be out here as well. Derpwood got Botox on his nose. It runs like a river now, and so does his mouth. Well, I don't know about that. He's got a booze nose, though. I think that's vodka rather than Botox. The whole we were drifting in and out of sleep. Do you know how much fun lawyers would have with that in a court of law? You think that's even going to get to that point? Like, nobody ever, anytime, anywhere accepted the fact that you're drifting in and out of sleep. You were sleeping as some sort of alibi as to you not being around when the kids just magically disappeared into thin air in the middle of nowhere. That's a very sloppy alibi nihilism. You're right. That would have stuck out to police right away. Just tell them you were sleeping. Just tell them you were sleeping. We were trying to sleep. I don't believe that anybody slept. The whole lack to commit to any sort of true timeline that Thursday night tells me that it didn't happen anywhere close to that way. Something else happened. Right on through to the point they called 911. So when it comes down to the chicken or the egg here, and the suspects refuse to speak and leave it at that, it's not going to work for them. It's going to make them work harder. They're not going to go away. They're not going to accept that as your final answer in this circumstance, because it's not an answer. It's not an answer. You're refusing to answer the question. Refusing to answer the question. Probably in the States, it would be because of they don't want to incriminate themselves. We don't have that here in Canada, though. You can't plead the fifth. It'd be nice to. There'll be something similar. Trail hiker. The release court documents say they both had financial issues. Yeah, we've been talking about that here for some time. That's just added to the overall mess of everything. So I wonder what the actual issues were, how they were going to get that information. They would have to formulate some questions based off of, hopefully, some of the digital forensics that they got through the conversations between Cindy and Malaya would say a lot to them. Now, whether they gain access, they're really going to have to get down deep in that phone. They're going to have to download that program, put it up to the one of their Linux machines do this the hard way. all of the deleted texts. Not that there's like smoking details in it, but it paints a more accurate depiction of what went on between Malaya and Daniel and what their more private lives are concealing. Well, they've got maids. They don't really need a death penalty. They'll just convince you that and talk you into suicide through this new maids thing runs with scissors. Or talk you into unaliving yourself in that sense. Or approach you with it as an option. Fucking hell. Yeah, Larry Green, you're calling all of this drama, but it's brought to you by Daniel and Malaya in that sense. There's very little drama at this point in time from the traditional internet sense of the word. Gary Glass, DM and NVM. Who's NVM? NVM. Was that supposed to be MBM? Have the same times Thursday night and on Friday morning, 8, 10, and 12. I don't know what you mean. No, you're overlooking the fact that you're overlooking a few things. What do you mean the same? The same. They had different times from going to bed, allegedly. And Thursday night, Malaya said that she didn't know Daniel went to bed. Daniel said he didn't know what time the kids went to bed. That's what Malaya talked about. So they didn't really have the same times in that sense. But I don't know what you're talking about necessarily. It's not drama, it's trying to put the puzzle together for two missing children. Oh, thank you for bringing that home, Jen. Yeah, you're right. With two very incompetent people, while a whole group of incompetent people what? You have to finish that. Yeah, maids is horrible. Mama Bear, you look for Daniel to take the coward's way out when he feels they almost have him? He's never going to know. No, I don't think so. Daniel's gone to great extents to save his own hide through lying, or through lying in that sense. He's got confidence in it. He's got confidence in his words at this point. He's taking the chance. He's letting it ride. But when they show the cards, it's not going to work out in his favor in the long run. It would show if Cindy really called Malaya and if the kids were outside in the past. Maybe. Sorry, I can never remember how to spell her name. Oh, Cindy, you mean, Mama? Or Lolo? Oh, you mean the conversation that they're having? Between Malaya and Cindy? It would show if Cindy really called Malaya. Well, it would show a lot of things in context to other questions that you as an investigator were playing around with in your mind. It's all kinds. But most importantly, you're trying to demonstrate to a jury of 12 and convince them that the parents are indeed lying. And if Jack and Lily actually made it home that day. You live an hour down the road? Oh, don't tell anybody, Jenny. I won't tell anybody. Whoops. So, like in investigative or in interviews in this circumstance, I think that I don't think that they've been put through much scrutiny early on. They're too much in need to gather as much information as possible. No matter what information they're coming forward, remember the truth is in the language. There's a lot that goes without saying when it comes to missing children cases. I feel from the investigative standpoint, like we all know what's at stake here, type of thing. I don't know if I should get upset over the fact that this isn't going to be a textbook, novel that you get in the grocery store checkout line type of story. It's complicated. Complicated to prosecute. Well, you could argue that, Niall. I get what you're saying. You could argue that Malaya decided to delete the app as part of her leaving Daniel. It's just the process. Oh, I'm moving back in with my mom right now. I wish I knew the requirements that Child Protective Services gave Malaya and Cindy when they first left with Meadow, and what happened that caused them to take Meadow and bring Meadow into custody in that sense. From their standpoint. Not from Daniel or Malaya's, but from the CPS standpoint or the CAS standpoint. Not that we're entitled to that information. I just, it'd be curious for me to know what was so affecting Malaya at the time that she risked losing custody of Meadow. In that mind, that demonstrates so much to a person investigating the case. Well, there goes that excuse, right? There goes that excuse. You can't rightly say that you're doing everything. Now you're forced to do things a certain way because they're put before you in order to try and get custody back of your child. Like at that point in time, what it would have had to have been, it's like, it's a circumstance you would think, and I don't know Malaya very well, but it would seem to me if you put her under pressure in that circumstance, she would shut down, close out. There's difficult to get anything out of her in order to open up about what had happened. Maybe it pushed her to a point of getting into an argument because Malaya's back with Wade and Cindy. And by the sounds of it, through what Wade has to say, you would have to imagine there is a certain element of not told you so, but a greater pressure on in order to let them know what the hell is going on here. Because this doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem right. What did he do tell us. And she got pushed into a corner and somehow ran with Meadow or took off, when confronted with her own accountability in this particular circumstance. I think that's probably it. There's probably better ways, more articulate ways to come to that, what I just explained, but I was ad-libbing. I was just pulling that one out from deep inside, excuse me. So that would be really interesting to know. Cindy and Wade know that. I think it'd be difficult. It's all fun and dandy to try and be all virtuous over that, but I think it's really hard on Cindy. And it's a lot easier for people just to be quiet and get on with their lives as opposed to setting and doing your own family even more damage. These are the things that are potentially that's confronting her psychologically and weighing on her as to, it's just easier to stay silent. And that makes me sad. But that's human nature. That's very human of her and natural. But it conflicts with justice in a situation that so many people are aware of. It's easy for people to lose that sight. I don't think anybody, especially from Malaya's side, wanted anything negative or any harm to come to Jack and Lily. I don't get that from anybody. And that's a lot different of a vibe than I get from the Mackenzie side, Daniel's side. It's completely different. And it's not just appearance. Whoop. Sorry, I'm after that fly again. Fucking fly. One fly. Driving me nuts. Daniel wanted a sticker for what test? He did a big boy sticker. He makes me sick, says Carol. They all do. God bless Belinda and Chelsea. Oh, it's so hard when everybody has their emotions into something. It's hard not to get overprotective of a certain side. It's natural, isn't it? We've got to remind ourselves everybody's human in this circumstance. Yeah, the RCMP probably could be doing a heck of a better job than they are right now, or what they look like they're doing now. But you could say that, that's your right to say that, I guess. That's your right. You hear that so much, but it makes me disappointed because it's just so easy to dismiss the complexities of the challenge that they're facing behind the scenes. I want to know what it is that they know and all the variables. I like to guess the things that they're on. I like to guess what it is that they're working on right now. Because they're working on something. They're juggling some ideas back there, no doubt. They're observing behavior, absolutely. Oh, Carol, thank you very much. It's very generous of you, darling. Thank you, AB, your coverage and honesty. Well, I appreciate the kind words. The Norbeaster says, it really baffles me that Malaya's dad is a tracker, yet nothing. Not a damn thing to help. What does that say? Probably that she didn't tell her dad anything. The real Norbeaster. What, are you trying to put something on Malaya's dad now? Too early for that, guys. Jesus. No, I'm not saying that you're saying that, Norbeaster. I'm just reading it a certain way, and it can look to read a couple different ways there. Listen, we don't know if it sounds like Malaya has kept everybody in the dark. You can't make somebody like something. You can't make somebody communicate with you. People have challenges and difficulties with their own children that they try to work out over time. During that time is always when something bad happens. And we say the same things that something should have happened before. That's only because we try to, make ourselves feel better in the end. I don't like to jump and put all of these other things on Cindy and Wade at this point in time when I don't know anything. That's all for sure. Yeah, this never should have happened to Jack and Lily. We can all agree about that. Like Mr. Hem, you get mad. I don't think you're mad. Who's sheltering Malaya from that accountability? Right now, somebody in her family on the reserve, it sounds like. You know what's going to really piss you off, Mr. Hemi? You should go take a look on my communication or my posts. Let me take this down for a second. Where the hell is it? Oh, it's over on my posts, like I told you. I was doing some reading, and this popped up, this federal income support for parents of murdered and missing children. So I was taking it and seeing if Malaya or Daniel qualified in any of this. I'm not sure that they do, because I don't know their previous tax year. And the thought occurred to me that maybe that they were getting paid at this point in time to make it look like a mystery. I was wondering if they qualified for this particular benefit. And I'm not sure Daniel does. But you know how they're always making little exceptions here and there. And I'm not sure, just based off of what they've said about their previous tax years and them having tax problems, like not filing them to begin with would be a huge concern, and that wouldn't qualify them for just based off of that. So I don't think that they're getting $450 a week. But I could be wrong. I just go on what I think I know. But you guys can go check it out. I didn't know it was an interesting piece that I didn't know actually existed. I can see, because true victims in that sense, it's a fallback for true victims whose lives have been altered in ways where, even, and it mentions no matter how suspicious you look. And I immediately thought, oh, maybe Daniel should look into this. Daniel, did you go and fill out your forms to qualify for this benefit? You might want to. Especially that you've had to take stress leave away from the sawmill, the lumber mill, allegedly. Maybe that's how he's affording that Escalade, that used Escalade. It's probably auctioned off in a drug seizure or something like that. Still an Escalade. Yeah, they're nice. They're nice. Daniel is living off the money meant for Jack and Lily, in your opinion, runs with scissors? Oh, you mean the benefits? Yeah, you know how that goes. Their finances were combined. Is that what we're saying? You think that Daniel and Malaya's finances were combined? Probably a strong possibility. We don't know that for a fact. There's something wonky going on. They're living there they're going through a transition. So if they were living together for over 2 years in that sense, maybe they already, they could be common law in that sense. Does that actually still exist? My mind hasn't been in that for so long. It hasn't applied to me. I would think so. What the problem is that the word on the street is that they defrauded the system, the benefit system, and misrepresented how many children that they were eligible to receive benefits for. So that would have added an extra complexity to everything at this point in time. Probably is already on a blacklist at Canada Revenue Agency. I would expect that, I guess you could look at it that way, runs with scissors. If you're looking for things to hold against them. But I mean, if they're all living together, it's not unheard of that they share the expenses. Usually that occurs. It's when you give up your freedom. Finally moving in with this girl, and all of a sudden that you're opening up a joint bank account with each other. Oh shit. No, I'm good. My last girlfriend that was like the first thing she did. I regret that now. I should have been more determined rather than wishy-washy and just not cared. But water under the bridge. Hold on. I gotta refresh that chat. Carol Johansson, 2807. It was clear they were still using Patty's card right up until the kids disappeared. So right away, in my mind, the benefits would be around like filling your car up with gas. Absolutely. Like on the reserve, gas is a lot cheaper than it is at your local, $1.30. It might be $1.30 at in the city, and then on the reserve it might be 90 cents. But you might even get it for a cheaper deal. So I don't know what Patty's card means, whether it's her bank card or what it is. But I know where you're going with all of that. Yeah, and Wade talked about how generous Patty has been with Malaya. That must be really difficult for Cindy and a bit of point of contention. Like, it's really isn't that kind of, I don't know the dynamics 100%, but it's in a way, maybe from Cindy's perspective, Malaya going around Cindy and dealing with Patty. Maybe Patty and I'm not sure whose relationship is stronger in that sense. Maybe Malaya lived with Patty, instead of her mother as they were having issues growing up. There's something to that. I don't know. Nothing's 100 in that sense, but they both care very much about Malaya in that sense. Malaya has a clear support structure when it comes to Cindy and Patty that really was unbroken. In spite of what Daniel is trying to convince people of. Like, Daniel had it in his mind that somehow his relationship with her mother was something that she needed to separate from. That's never a good thing. You don't want to convince anybody, whether you like your in-law or not, that they need to separate from them. You're going to lose that battle in the long run. Why even take it? Don't even take it. No matter how mad you are, upset you are, you don't pull that shit and expect to like smooth that over after the fact. That's something that stings and it stays, it scars. What are you saying, Silver Gold, WTF censorship? What are you talking about? They just always refer to Daniel as stepdad. It's confusing to you. What's confusing to you about that, Lolo? They're not technically their stepdad. He's in that role. He's taken that role. and Malaya acknowledged that role. You know, it's weird to me. She acknowledged the role of stepdad, but in the one interview that Malaya gave, she refers to Daniel as her partner. That tells me that you're already on the outs, and there's something, there's something else behind there. Just in the way that she delivered it. Even Janie shouldn't have been on the property. Janie was getting rent money. I don't know about that tips. People bring that up, but I don't know. Janie mentioned that they were living there for free and they just had to cover their hydro, their electric bill in that sense. That would tell me that she was a bit annoyed of the setup, the living situation. But she was doing it out of the goodness of their heart in order for them to get on their feet and get the hell on up out of their house, out of the trailer, so she could go back to business as usual. Justice for Jack and Lily runs with scissors. I appreciate you, darling. Oh, poor you, Carol. You're going through it right now, too. You've got a difficult friend. Well, you got to do what's best for you. Drippy, you should say around 20% of status is programmed onto your driver's license. It's less if you already have a status card. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, off. Yeah, it's just a tax rebate on the go. What paperwork, Cool J? Oh, you guys want to take it that way. Tash Pond, I'm betting they were originally supposed to pay rent. Well, you mean promises? And just didn't, and now she's using it to make herself sound nicer? Oh, could be. Is it really important? You know that it's a less than ideal situation. But do you expect Janie to be honest with you about things? Sometimes she's got a funny way of indicating the reality, we believe. She's got a funny way, a funny pattern about her. Tips. Some even go to the food banks, then sell the food, for Christ's sakes. Well, it's the convenience of going to the food bank, picking it up, and then coming to your home and dropping it off. What's wrong? It's like a really cheap Uber. Probably tax-free, too. Under the table, like. If Daniel was only doing that, he'd be making money, bro. That's a good idea, actually. Really got down at the food banks. The hell am I paying for groceries when I could just be getting my spaghetti sauce down there? Oh, next time, could you guys get lactose free? Where's the healthy section to this food bank, please? I don't know about that runs with scissors. they're talking about them, well, Daniel especially, not filing his taxes in that sense, so he wouldn't have been claiming anything. But you still bring up a valid point. There'd still probably be a loose number that they would come up with. That's not necessarily wrong. It's just somebody else paying that for them in that sense. And that's the person letting the land. Hard to say. Maybe probably just didn't bother. Didn't bother filing. What are you talking about, spare time? Spare time 05 because she claims welfare. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. And knew she was caught. Because she claims welfare and she knew she was caught. Who are you referring to, spare time? Tips? No, I'm sure you are serious. Where is it they're doing that? Where do you live that they're doing that, by the way? Or where do they do that? Not that you are, but where are you referencing? Yeah, well, when you go down to the food bank to get your own food, why don't you take a little bit more and make an extra 20, 40 bucks? You know what I'm saying? But really, you can say that you're paying for the convenience of not the food, but the transport in going from point A to point B. In Digby, Nova Scotia. I think food banks everywhere are always talking about how busy they are. That's across the board. High cost, inflation. It is ridiculous. It's difficult. But not impossible, baby. Oh, you don't need to convince me of that. You should probably see what happens in the city. That's fairly common, I would imagine. People always trying to look for an edge. That's some real extreme couponing. Yeah, well, Drippy, I don't think... Yeah, I know what he said. I wouldn't believe that worth a fuck. Talking about the capital gains tax he owed on a business property he sold. No, I have a more tendency to believe what Wade has to say, as opposed to Daniel. If Daniel was in a position to be owing taxes, he wouldn't be living at his fucking mom's house, okay? If you're in a position that you had to pay tax on all of the gains that you made, a little bit of tax from the gains that you made. No, he's misrepresenting what it is he's trying to use as an excuse. Tells me that he's broke as shit. He doesn't understand finances in the first place. Okay? Listen, if you're in a position to be paying out all kinds of capital gains tax, you're in a financially stable state. 9 times out of 10. There'll probably always be an exception. But Daniel isn't it. He's paying capital gains tax and they're shopping on at Temu. Yeah, conflict. He's paying all this tax on his capital gain. All these capital gains tax is kind of contrary to all of the outstanding benefits that they must have been receiving. So the money that you get in for benefits is proportionate to your income, meaning that the more income that you make, the less that the government needs to give you in their subsidy. So if you don't make anything, you would get the max amount allotted to you. Crank is a non-business tax venture. TJ, you think he's selling the crank? How dare you bring that up in my chat? Right, runs with scissors. Malaya would be doing her taxes in that sense to get the child benefit. You would have to. So what sort of living situation do you consider them in that sense? Like from a tax standpoint, there's a conflict with all of that. It's not so bad from Malaya's perspective, but it is when one of them's trying to claim, or maybe there's a conflict because, what does Malaya fill out? You're both living at the same address. Or are you? Earl, let me register my place at your address for tax purposes. Not for tax purposes, but for tax benefit purposes, to soak the government out of even more money in that sense, which wouldn't be the first time. It's not like you're doing things for tax purposes, like moving your fortune offshore into the Cayman Islands. He wishes. Oh shit. Yeah, I'm keeping my fat stack offshore. Yeah, he'll have to pay it back, Bonnie, of course. They just don't say, don't worry about it. You can't audit zero. Not much to audit in that sense. Be probably done in the morning. Yeah, it's just something that he's got to pay back. Don't even hold these things against him necessarily. They just get blown out of proportion. Sometimes you just get, you don't necessarily get everything right on a tax form. It's just been said that by Wade that he was already called out. So which tells me it's already been known about sometime in the past year before his interview with Tint, that he was claiming. Now that's fairly specific. Like he said something Wade did that was fairly specific, which tells me he's probably telling me the truth. Like Wade's not going to just fucking make something up. But he said it to the tune of $34,000 of paid benefits, claiming that they had 2 more kids, which would increase the amount of money they would have got monthly. So you're going to take that difference, and when you go back to rectify this over the tax years, you're going to take the difference and accumulate that, and he has to pay that back. yeah, Mr. Heavy. He tried telling people about capital gains tax. The only money that he owed was capital gains tax from selling a property. While he's living fucking with his mom's. No. Oh, no. You got one. That's right, Drippy. Didn't he tell me once, one of his friends, and we all laughed, that he was getting into investing? He was getting into investing. He was thinking about getting into investing. You mean setting yourself up to be exit liquidity? Oh yeah, you're going to get into it full retail. Well, I'll feel better on my next shorts that I win. I'll know where all the money's coming from. Oh, shit. Oh, yeah, metals are good. You want to keep moving your money around. No, he did say he was going to start investing, really. Maybe you should start shutting the hell up. First, yeah, capital gains. That means you have made some capital. Made some gains, you mean, in the first place. Yeah, the gains. The green. He's in the green so much that... and not just that. Well, the fact that he sold would tell him that he checked out of the market. Yeah, can we find that sale? What? I wonder what land he's talking about. Oh, my mansion in Malibu. Yeah, that's another story, Slim. But here in Canada, capital gains tax is a thing. But the secret is you don't have to take your money out, just shift it over. You can move it around and hide it in different places. You're only taxed when you realize your profits and things. And you send them into your bank account. This is why it's important to have an offshore bank account. is one way. Go down and start a bank up in Panama. Oh, yes, very important. And deduct any losses in leftover inventory. You can write some stuff off, which would be where the term writing stuff off comes from. Like Daniel's stories are write-off. Yeah, but he's lying, exactly. I guess you could have realized your gains and then took it to Vegas and bet it all on like black, and it turned out to be red, and you just lost all those gains right away. But you wouldn't owe anything on that, by the way. It would probably cancel itself out because you would be writing off that loss against what it is that you owe in taxes to the government. Oh, shit, I guess we've all had to have been explained that once or twice. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's okay, everything's fine now. Old Daniel. Daniel and his storytelling. Nova Scotia, it's hard to defraud the social assistance. Well, they have all this information on computers now, so the computers are programmed to pick up any discrepancies like they're told to do. But the good part of it is if you're trying to get money right away, you can falsely put things down and fill out these forms, but it only lasts for so long. It's like you would think it's not worth it in that sense in the end. Yeah, he would, TJ. You have to when you're an elitist. You have to. It just comes with the territory. Once you have your fat stack, you got to learn how to keep a hold of it. Who did you rat to, Tips? Did you just call the Canada Revenue Agency and rat Daniel Martel out? Is that what you're talking about? You tipped on Daniel? What did you say? What did you tell him? What did you tell him? Tip says, yeah. What did you say to them? You probably don't even have to exaggerate. That's so mean. It's already caught up to him, though. They're already sorting things out in that sense. I wonder if it's okay to lie on this year's taxes. Probably. Never go real life runs with scissors. I don't think he's going real life. That's not going IRL. He's just calling in a concern to the Canada Review Agency. You know, Daniel, that's how they caught Capone. That's what they charged Al Capone with. Tax evasion. But only he had a shit ton of money. It's almost genius. Logging trucks have been prohibited on what roads? Slim Pickens. Carol, it just seems to me that there were 3 people on that property. That's weird, and it seems to indicate more people are going off the property. That statement keeps bugging me. Which one? Well, listen, there's 3 people that were last seen on the property with the kids, supposedly, that they want you to believe. In the same breath, they don't want to be accountable for them just disappearing. And the stories that they give you, their essential story is that they were drifting in and out of sleep in the middle of the morning. So if they went to great extents to hide the body and cover up any sort of evidence, does that mean that that's a recipe to get away and make your child go missing and not get caught? No. It just means that they've got to do things more covertly, therefore not to tip off publicly through the media which way they're thinking. And if that means dropping some stories to remind everybody that we don't have any evidence, and it's really a no-brainer, it just pisses you off when you read it. We have no evidence suggesting that these people, very important claims and very important tips, actually remain unsubstantiated. People, like some people, will jump to conclusions in, whichever way, when they're really not saying anything. Yeah. So they're jumping ahead and saying, for example, there's no video to back up any of these statements. We don't have video to corroborate those particular claims at that time. That doesn't mean she's all a write-off and we need to go home and give up. We shouldn't even be there with our minds yet. I still believe the neighbors. I believe their accounts. I believe they saw something. It's something suspicious, and it's probably Daniel. Jesus, what did they do before they had video cameras? So really what they're telling you is they've got nothing that would suggest anything criminal for them, in turn, to go and arrest a certain person without actually saying that. They've got no reason to act on that tip any further. It remains just what it is. It was a lead that can't be substantiated. Not that not all leads need to be substantiated. But there's nothing like a smoking gun that would lead them in any direction in this. The fact that they keep coming back to that is frustrating because it seems like they're not making any progress when in fact they're establishing something very important. And it's that no evidence of anything scenario, which opens up the different possibilities, different probabilities. Like, it's clear to everybody that there's something wrong with Daniel. something wrong with Janie too. Something wrong with their attitude towards this entire scenario. That doesn't bode well with anybody. What does that have to do with where Jack and Lily are? Nothing, so they don't need to focus on that. Even though that's the gorilla in the room type of thing. Right? It does scream guilty conscience. Absolutely. These are all red flag indicators of deception. But not at all a conviction, and it doesn't mean that they're guilty or innocent in that sense. But we all want to jump to conclusions a little bit. That's what we're talking about, Shelley. I thought or earlier. That's what we were talking about. Baby bonus. It's the same thing in that sense. Julia Turner, thank you for bringing that up. Julia Turner tends to believe that Justin was there, like Justin Daniel's brother. That's why when Malaya says, I tell him my partner, Daniel, she qualifies who him is. To differentiate, that's so good. I like you, Julia. You're sharp. Holy shit. You can ride shotgun with me, girl. Tend to believe Justin was there. That's why when Malaya says, I tell him my partner, Daniel, she qualifies who him is. To differentiate him from... Well, yeah, could Daniel's brother Justin was there at that search, and he was there during that press conference. Yeah, that's a strong possibility, isn't it? Or she could just be looking for a bit of an out when she's trying to fabricate and just kind of nodding over to him, acknowledging him in the moment. But it would indicate something, potentially. Absolutely. It's a great point. Holy shit. Holy shit, that's a good point. I like it. They have to establish that they looked at every single tip, says Carol, because otherwise a defense attorney will eat them alive, saying you focused only on my client. You let the real perpetrator go. Yeah, like the usual defenses for individual in the circumstance. Yeah, you can't leave avenues open. You have to eliminate all of these things for the sole purpose of bringing justice after the fact. That's why they do what they do. Yeah, I guess that's all right. Yeah, Bonnie, she never once did Janie say, please help find Lily and Jack in that sense. Yeah, they don't seem to demonstrate the same sort of panic. You think that if no matter whose children were just there one moment and gone the next, you would be in panic. I wouldn't even be wanting... You think? Can you imagine that? Think about all the things that Janie isn't complaining about. If they can't find the kids, obviously somebody took them. If you're in a situation of just happenstance, in your mind, you would be coming up with clear determinations. Because you live in the driveway, Janie. Can you imagine some individual coming in there, some stranger violating your environment in such a way, and just yawning and going back in the RV and kicking back and, business as usual, chasing people off of your land, yelling at people? Doesn't smell right, does it? The Christine, she could be also clarifying for the media. Yeah, in the moment, clarifying in the moment. But even with clarifying in the moment, it makes you think. Not that it's a clear indicator one way or the other. It's just an interesting point. And even if she was clarifying in the moment, what significance did Justin have in that particular moment in time? It makes you think about the scenario that was being portrayed. Yeah, whatever happened to that bee in Florida? That's an interesting conversation that I think people should talk about more. And early on, B is saying they agree because I think Belinda initially said Justin was living there because of a spat with his wife or something. Right. Like, what was the deal with the living situation? That would have been in that. You would have to think that there would have been things in that redacted paperwork that would have told us a little bit more about if he was or wasn't living there. And you've got me thinking that maybe that's true. And I have to think what Belinda was saying was factual in that sense. Like, Belinda believed that Justin was staying there. Why? What was it? What was it that gave her that inkling? Not that it's necessarily true, but obviously something made her think that way. Obviously, the worst case scenario, and who else could have been around when they went missing? And I would imagine that Justin popped up because Belinda believes that he was living there. And then why does Daniel want to, misrepresent the situation? Pink Rose is 777. Yeah, I've got a lot of respect for Belinda now, going through this. You're saying she knew right away that this was a made-up story? I believe that as well. I wouldn't even ask her that. That goes without saying in my mind. Like, I believe it wasn't just her. There was something that occurred. Shit was going down in real time, and it was working against them. We got the fight in the end of the driveway. Wade and Cindy grab Malaya, take her away. We've had Belinda. God knows who else is sitting around, taking all of this in. That's from a person like an investigator just walking on the scene, this whole performative action is significant. No matter what. It's significant. And the fact that they just want to dismiss it as nothing really happened worth remembering type of thing is another indicator, in my opinion. That fits in with their pattern in this. It's just not worth remembering. Is this sort of the logic that sent Malaya in for or pointed her in the direction of a mental breakdown in that sense, I wonder? Probably. Another level of gaslighting. I wonder what brought Malaya and Daniel together. I wonder how they got together. Does anybody know in my chat? I wonder how you guys got together. TJ Stonehouse. Earl just posted. He's a proud pit bull owner. They eat skinny kids for fun. Sorry, that's graphic. So, did he put in the part about eating skinny kids? Or are you putting that in as a joke type of thing? Earl just posted he's a proud pit bull owner. Oh, I'm sure I'll see it. It's probably to keep all you pesky kids away. Good. We'll bring a stick along with this when we'll throw that in the yard to distract it. We'll only put a muzzle on it. Probably trained to hate cops. What is it he's saying with this pitbull statement? What is it we can learn? I think it's a warning to people like Tint. You better not come around here anymore. Mr. Hemi, you think they met on welfare Tinder? Is that a thing? Carol says, depending on how much the RCMP can do without telling the public here in America, the FBI can get all of the cellular interaction, even if it's on a specialized application, they'll see the activity. Yeah, well, there's some interdepartment cooperation. If the information they need is out there, it'll be available to them. It's just probably at a price to the RCMP, so they have to make it count, right? You have to really hone your times and know what it is that you're looking for. Anything's available in that sense. The fact that there's no information during certain times are really going to stand out and conflict with later scrutiny of anybody's statements when you're fabricating a story. So that would be along the lines of the digital forensics that they want to accumulate. Even when everything is stationary and not moving is a piece and speaks for itself to the situation as a whole. And it can mean important things to the information that's not readily available to us. Yeah, Lori, this is mind games at force. Earl noising the gullible public. One moment, please. Apologize, we had to grab a little bit of snacks. Yeah, Jenny LeBlanc, that's always true about the RCMP knowing more than they're letting on. Of course they do. They're when it comes to this investigation, they're the key holders. They're in charge of it, right? They hire officers and assume a specific role and only speak publicly about things that are pertinent without giving away details. And we've got a double entendre here because we still have suspects at large, potentially. So they have even more reason to not be as concise and as specific as we would like. For a very important reason, and that's the case that's building against Daniel and Malaya and Janie. And if it comes to the point, like if they don't add any more context along the lines, they're going to be sitting on that stand in front of a jury, hashing it out with lawyers, which is for them even worse because it's a final determination as opposed to getting the truth out that is going to somehow work to your benefit in the moment. And they're going to ride this out for as long as possible until it comes to them. But the indicators to me that this is going to occur is the fact that we lack any sort of context from the last people that saw these children alive. And that can only lead to us into one really generalized determination that they're responsible for bringing harm and conspiracy to cover up after the fact, right? Can you imagine all of the stuff that we suspect? Imagine the load of charges that they're accumulating. Potentially. In that sense. It's going to take a little while for that to, it's got to be a bit of paperwork involved. Yeah, Meeple, there's plenty of them around. Like, people say, oh, well, that means that there's a double child unalive at large. Well, listen, there's a whole shit ton of people who do harm to kids and other people who don't get caught. All right? You don't hear about them. So what would be of concern to you at the fact that who we're talking about is responsible and running around, and that's a real safety concern. Fuck, there's all kinds of peoples out there that don't get caught for red rum. But something tells me that that's not going to occur in this circumstance because of its high profile nature, for one. Not saying that that's going to be a determining factor, but I'm saying, listen, this is obviously a situation with a lot of dynamics, to speak in generalities. The dynamics being everything that we're calling out about Daniel. They don't need to be going on about the same things in that sense. But you can imagine that if it's so blatant to us that it gives them a better direction of how they need to go about doing what it is that they need to do to feel secure enough to go on to the next step. And part of that is controlled information drops, like with information that they gathered way back in May. And think about how we're treating it right now. We're so far behind the 8 ball in information. It should be relative to the investigation. They're ahead of things in that sense. No doubt about it. But being ahead of things doesn't necessarily mean close to the end. Daniel knows what he needs to stay away from. And watching him trying to navigate the sea of deception is something that we're going to look back upon as something that will become more of a thing, I feel, sadly. Daniel hasn't represented the situation in a realistic manner since the get-go. It's always been a show for the camera, a show for the person who's interviewing him. And he recognizes the power of propaganda. And it's all self-serving. No concern over the fate of Jack and Lily. Just desperate and in need of you to make assumptions. And that's his motivation for being here. To guide you in the right direction. To humanize himself. Not that he's like an evil genius back there, but it's not too hard, okay, when you're trying to get away with something and just lying to save your own hide. That's a big juicy nugget for police, and they keep coming, these examples. So in theory, if you keep them coming from Daniel's perspective, why would he stop? He's the only one that's really fooled by anything, because he's the one who effectively wants and needs to convince himself of everything in order to move on in life. But look back and think about all of the pretentious, disingenuous things that he pulled off in front of the camera early on in this search. But number one, who acts like that with no reason? He wants to obscure these timelines slightly because, well, we can really hone the timeline into a specific shortened area within these 3 days. And we'll even give them the benefit of the doubt from the CCTV footage from the Dollarama on that Thursday afternoon. Sometime after that, and the time they called RCMP, they want to tell you that nothing within that time is worth remembering. Oh, I'm pretty sure that that's not going to fly in the middle of a court. that just That's why they don't want to take you to take the stand in that sense. So you're not going to put yourself in a situation like that, Daniel. But that's really, if we remain at a standoff, which is, listen, where from our perspective, we can only think, because we don't have all of the information that the RCMP does, we can only take it so far. And we're frustrated because we're stuck in that right now. That's where our frustration is coming from. Bonnie, there were people in Jack and Lily's life that cared for them very much. It's easy for us, I think, to say, and I'm not dressing you down by any means. I appreciate the statement. Jack and Lily had people in their lives that cared for them. The problem with all of this is the people who were in a role of caretaking and parental, specifically, and the level of deception that they portrayed in order to cover up their own lifestyles and the reality and truth to the problems in their lives. And it, in turn, ended up costing probably the lives of their kids because of the same sort of behavior that they're exhibiting now and not wanting to be accountable in a realistic manner towards the situation at hand. They're avoiding big time and hoping that it's just going to blow over. And that's probably a typical thing in their lives. It's not going to fly this time. At some point along the lines, they're going to have to fill in that obscure timeline. And if they don't, it's going to be handcuffs. They've got to bring it to them. They've got to bring them there for a reason. And paint a picture. Right, Bonnie. Belinda cared about the children. You know, I wonder if Daniel really used the fact that I don't want to say that. I don't want to start introducing things that could be between that relationship. It's unfair of me at this point in time. I wonder what his neighbors really think. In a way that you're not going to get from a YouTube live chat. I think if that individual is indeed Mr. Wong, the point that he made is fairly relevant. And he's indicated really that here's Daniel really not keeping it about Jack and Lily and their whereabouts. This has everything to do about where and Jack and Lily went, not about Daniel's innocence. To paraphrase. Yeah, Jenny, that's going to come. You cannot wait for the day. You think about, you know what the temperature of the true crime genre and the scene was? It was so different from the heat of the moment, like when you're in it, a few months into it, like people are with this case. And 14 months down the line, when they decide to make an arrest, nobody pays attention to the headline because there's another new hot case that people can't pull themselves away from in the moment. That's kind of how it happened with Orson West case. And there's different things like going on, like the Summer Wells case at that point in time when they made the arrests. Not that it went unnoticed. It wasn't as endearing at the moment. And really, it wasn't a lot of coverage on the particular case in the courtroom. You can get bits and bytes of it, of course, but not what you would have had expected going through it. Well, Carol, Julia, I also think it's strange that Janie didn't answer Malaya's call at 3:30. Then, well, listen, yeah, it's definitely strange. it's worth following up. But think about all of the natural excuses you have for not answering a phone call at any one time when you're out preoccupied with something, especially that you might not have your ringer on, your vibrator on. Janie didn't have her vibrator on, maybe. It's strange that Janie didn't answer Malaya's call at 3:30. Then she was up all the pipeline. Maybe she didn't want to be identified by the cell location. Why wait 2 hours? Well, it still would have pinged off her phone. There was still a command to call and a locate on the phone in order to receive. What's wrong with your eyebrows, Daphne? What happened? What are you talking about? Berkey boys, none of this matters as Paul Bernardo has a great life in jail. And he'll be out soon enough. We got Mr. Positivity in my live chat. Okay. Real fan of the criminal justice system. You had a unibrow yesterday? Daphne wants me to say that she doesn't actually have a real unibrow in real life. It was just the way the shadows were. You need one of those round lights. Take away all the shadows. Be in Florida, the disconnect, in your opinion, is that prosecutors make circumstantial cases on subtle details every day, yet the RCMP seems to only focus on the blatant evidence. Just give the case to the lawyers and let them tell the story. High five. Eventually they're going to have to do that. But I think that it probably comes down to one man, right? Which is the Crown prosecutor. And that's so specific. Anytime great decisions like this, in my mind, I shouldn't say that. But yeah, it comes down to really the Crown prosecutor, what he feels that he needs in order to sell it in court, to be able to have a successful case, a conviction. In this, you think the conversation has probably come up a few times. Probably at least once a day. Maybe not once a day. That's a good observation. I like that statement, B. Jenny, I also find it strange that Malaya never asked Janie when she's seen her. Have you seen the kids? Instead of responded, the kids are missing, and not have you seen them? Well, she said how long? Remember, both Daniel and Malaya said that they're the ones that told her about 20 minutes. They've told that story different ways. In other words, a blatant inconsistency. But both ends up the same result, that it's a bullshit story. So therefore, what really happened? Therefore, Daniel, what really happened? That's the question. I couldn't believe it on the CBC News when Daniel said that there's more to this story than meets the eye in that sense. In other words, the story that he gave the cops isn't true. Through omission. At very least. How do we know that, B, about Justin parking 300 feet away? Are you talking about up at the neighbors' cabins in that driveway? Yeah, but your point is taken. It's suspicious to me, too, that they all got the heck out of Dodge when the cops were on the way. They all had better things to do, and that better thing to do was, in parentheses, be searching randomly this way and that. You have to have a reason why you're searching in a certain spot at any one point in time, or why else would you go there? Each and every time, each and every spot. So why are you taking up all of your times randomly searching all of these different places? And he's evidence of pantomime and narrative building in real time when he goes and grabs his buddies, the Pipeline Boys, the next day. He goes and gets two friends in order to continue the gaslighting. Hey, this happened. He's trying to establish some, traumatic memories in friends' minds in that sense, to really hone down and start spreading the story a certain way. He needs to incorporate others. That's why they needed to call their entire family over in the first place. Like, here's the question in these circumstances. If your child is actually missing, it shouldn't take you very long to find him. I'm not trying to oversimplify things, but it brings you to the next step in why you're making the decisions you're making randomly when only a couple of things could have happened. It stinks to high heaven of an overacting. He's overcompensating and trying to establish out of desperation and sheer panic that he needs to keep making these irrational decisions in real time. Like, why is it you're searching off over these random places and you're not in line or aligned or have some sort of plan formulated with the cops? This is your situation. You need the police. You need the search teams. Okay? But so all of a sudden, a little bit of time passes in this emergency that they put on the police. All of a sudden they try spinning and twisting and melding the story as though, yeah, we knew that the kids weren't out there in the first place. Well, that's what we're trying to say. They keep trying to shift this accountability over to other people in the moment, which is a red flag of itself. Like, there's no need to do that ever. Like, it screams that the situation isn't as it's portrayed by only the people that were the ones to make the report in the first place. There's no getting around that. And they keep wanting to shift your perspective and blend into the rest of the people out here who are wondering certain things as wondering the same thing when need be. Yeah, Shelly, Earl's been posting threats in your opinion. We'll put that in our next live stream. We'll talk about it then. I'll have to go and take a look. Old Earl cracks me up a little bit if there's such a thing in this circumstance. Here he comes. Here comes Earl. He's going to sort things out. Using technology, making some posts, sending some messages. Like, what's that really doing, Earl? What are you really doing out there, Earl? Yeah, Kim McCann, there is so many red flags. Is that you in my chat, Derpwood? Got somebody in my chat saying it would be funny if an undercover cop went to Brian Wong's to check serials on the dirt bikes he's selling. You seem to have an issue. There's no need to do these things to Mr. Wong and his family. He's a fantastic witness. Very important man. Yeah, Jenny, you think at this point the only thing people are wondering, what do you mean at the RCMP, are wondering where did they put the children? That's sad, but true. I'm sure wondering. You, Jeannie? Or Jenny, excuse me? Jenny LeBlanc. Jenny the White. Or no. Blanche is white. Blanc. Forgetting French. Feminine and masculine. I know, honey, I'm getting hungry too. We're going to go eat soon. Tom says, me, Derpwood? LOL, that's funny, isn't it? Well, I guess that's Derpwood. I mean, not Derpwood. We don't expect you to tell the truth, Tom. Derpwood. Carol, that's what you're wondering? I don't believe that either one of the children are alive. But also, I don't necessarily believe that they're together. I think that's a consideration. I'm sure. Tom, you never lie? You need to tell us that. You sound like you're even talking like Derpwood. Blanc is masculine white. Blanche is feminine white. Ah, see, at least I was going the right area. Yeah. It's been a while. The Grove Cat. Le Blanc. L-E. Masculine. Daphne knows Tom? Okay. Daphne, you know Tom? You're cool. That's fine. All right, y'all, we're fading quickly. We'll keep an eye on things. We're going to go have a look at, see what Earl had to say. Keep an eye out. We'll be coming at you very shortly. Tomorrow morning, probably. But thank you for sticking it out, friends. I appreciate the talk. Peace.